South Korea, the U.S. and Japan kick off a trilateral naval exercise in the counter advancing underwater missile and nuclear threats by North Korea. A delegation from the 2030 World Expo Committee has begun on-site inspections in South Korea as the coastal city of Busan aims to host a mega event. And the city's blossoming beauty reaches its peak as Seoul's iconic Cherry Blossom Festival returns.
Good afternoon. We start with the dozens of wildfires that broke out across South Korea over the weekend, with efforts to extinguish them continuing into this Monday. Major blazes were reported in the country's central regions, including here in capital Seoul's Inwangsan Mountain. Yeon has the latest.
The Korea Forest Service reported more than 30 forest fires across the country on Sunday amid strong spring winds and warmer temperatures causing humidity levels to drop below 20%. 15 of the fires have been extinguished, but two of the biggest fires, in Hongseong County, roughly 110 kilometers south of Seoul and just south of the city of Daejeon, have both been classified Level 3 emergencies, the highest fire alert. Relevant authorities have been ordered to make all-out efforts to put out the blazes, but firefighters are racing against winds that are speeding up the spread of fire.
The challenge to extinguishing the fire is the strong winds, both yesterday and today. The strong wind is causing the wildfires to spread quickly, especially faster in the valley.
Also, in central Seoul, a large forest fire broke out on the slopes of Inwangsan just before noon on Sunday, which quickly spread to the northern side of the mountain. As of Monday morning, 98% of the fire has been contained, but winds are hindering it from being extinguished completely. Authorities have banned entry to the mountain, with some 120 residents in nearby areas being evacuated, but there have been no reports of deaths or casualties. South Korea has been under a dry weather advisory for some time now, with cumulative rainfall in Seoul only reaching 67.3% of rainfall in recent years in the first 3 months of 2023. The last time it rained in Seoul was roughly the 5.6 millimeters of rain that fell in the capital on March 12, which makes it over 20 days without a drop. The United Nations Environment Program has projected that climate and land use changes would make wildfires more frequent and intense, with the number of wildfires rising by 50% by the year 2100, and South Korea is no exception. South Korea remains under a special dry weather warning, although there is some positive news with rain in the forecast early this week. Yeouido, Arirang News.
Following large-scale military drills with the U.S., South Korea will take part in a trilateral naval exercise involving Washington and Tokyo. It is aimed at countering advancing underwater threats by North Korea. Kim Hyun-sung reports.
A three-way naval drill kicks off Monday between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. The navies of three countries are set to hold an anti-submarine warfare drill on international waters south of Jeju Island. This comes just 6 months after their last drill, which also focused on anti-submarine warfare. However, this latest exercise is a preemptive measure aimed at defending against North Korea's increasingly diverse threats, which include submarine-launched ballistic missiles. Rear Admiral Christopher Sweeney of the Carrier Strike Group 11 will be overseeing the training, which will involve several warships from each country. The South Korean warships participating in the exercise include the Yulgok-2, Chaeyoung, Daejeon, and Soyang, while American warships such as the USS Nimitz, Decatur and Winnie Meyer, and the Japanese ship Umigiri will also take part.
For this trilateral exercise, we will use an unmanned underwater target. We expect to improve Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo's ability to detect, track, share information, and destroy through this exercise.
This three-way alliance is something that North Korea has been unhappy about, made clear when it went ahead with an intercontinental weapons test on the day of South Korean President Yoon Soohyun leaving for Tokyo to hold a bilateral summit with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Experts forecast further provocations to come from North Korea.
They want to send a strong message to the international community that the illicit missile and nuclear developments are justified because the United States and South Korea carry out joint military drills.
In addition to the anti-submarine warfare drill, there will be a search and rescue exercise on Tuesday, marking the first such drill in 7 years, which will strengthen cooperation in emergencies. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
Now it is a big week for South Korea. A delegation from the 2030 World Expo Committee has arrived in the country for an on-site inspection as the coastal city of Busan aims to host a mega event. Lee Seung-jae has more.
The Bureau International des Expositions, or BIE, which is the intergovernmental organization in charge of overseeing and regulating World Expos, arrived in South Korea on Sunday to inspect the country's port city of Busan, which is looking to host the World Expo 2030. The inspection team will stay in Busan for 6 days and 5 nights and will evaluate the hosting capacity and preparations done by the city. During their stay, the team will also meet with President Yoon Soohyun, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, as well as other ministers. The city of Busan, meanwhile, is hoping to show the inspection team that is fully capable of hosting a major event like the World Expo, while also differentiating itself from other candidates. Busan faces competition from Rome, Odessa, and Riyadh. With a tight race amongst the finalist cities expected, the inspection is all the more important as the report will be made available to the 171 member countries of the BIE, which will then review it before voting for a winner at the November general meeting. Watchers say the Ukrainian city of Odessa's hosting of the World Expo 2030 would be symbolic considering the current geopolitical crisis, while others say that Riyadh is leading this four-way race. However, South Korea remains hopeful as sources say that the inspection team was disappointed over the lack of preparation and proper infrastructure in place during its recent visit to Riyadh. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
President Yoon Soohyun visited the southern regions of South Korea over the weekend, engaging with locals in both liberal and conservative strongholds while pledging support for local industries. Oh Soo-young has more.
Throwing out the first ceremonial ball to mark the new baseball season this year, President Yoon Soohyun was on a weekend run to cover all major political bases in the south. Attending the Korea Baseball Organization's opening day game in the city of Daegu, between the NC Dinos and the home team's Samsung Lions, Yoon's office said the president's pitching posture sparked a buzz among the Generation Z and millennial age groups. But the ball wasn't all that he was pitching in his local brand baseball shoes. Touring the southern inland regions of the country, Yoon reached out to both conservative and liberal strongholds, meeting with locals and pledging measures to prop up the domestic economy. After showing support for local fishermen in the southern city of Tongyeong, the president made his way to the traditionally liberal Honam area, comprising Gwangju City and Jeollabuk-do and Jeollanam-do provinces. Kicking off an international garden expo, the president said he would actively support local economic growth by revitalizing domestic tourism, which suffered a decline over the years of the COVID-19 pandemic, and because of the growing preference for overseas travel. It was Yoon's first trip since taking office to the Jeollanam-do province.
자연과 문화가 어우러진 순천만에 오니 따뜻한 봄의 정취가 느껴집니다. 순천이 호남과 대한민국 발전의 핵심 거점이 되도록 제대로 챙기겠습니다.
The president resumed his trip on Saturday, walking into the 100th anniversary ceremony of Seoul Market in Daegu City, a major conservative stronghold. Instead of reaching the market entrance by car as planned, Yoon stepped out of the vehicle to greet citizens with handshakes as he made his way on foot.
늘 힘이 되어 주신 여러분의 손을 잡고 다시 대한민국 새로운 국민의 나라를 만들기 위해 발이 닳도록 뛰겠습니다.
Yoon once again highlighted the government's economic growth drive to promote local consumption as well as exports. He vowed to stand by merchants and citizens and strengthen the workings of liberal democracy, market economy and the rule of law to create a fair and just system that rewards hard work and improves livelihoods. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Honoring the spirit of freedom and human rights on Jeju Island, the government on Monday pledged to turn the country's southern island into a landmark of prosperity. On behalf of President Yoon Soohyun, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo attended a ceremony to mark the Jeju April 3rd incident, a culmination of civilian protests between 1947 and 1948 against the U.S. military-led rule. The protests were met with brutal suppression from the government that claimed an estimated 30,000 lives. Offering words of support and condolence to surviving victims and their families, Han emphasized the spirit of liberal democracy and core values such as freedom and human rights, which he said will lead to future prosperity. He further pledged support to grow Jeju into what he described as a treasure island, where cultural tourism and cutting-edge IT companies meet. The season's blossoming beauty is reaching its peak across the country. And here in the capital, Seoul, the city's iconic Cherry Blossom Festival returns for the first time since the pandemic. We go straight over to our very own Shin Se-byuk at the site. Se-byuk, can you describe the scene for us?
Good afternoon, Kyungin. It's a breathtaking sight in Yeouido with cherry blossoms in full bloom along the Yunjungno Road. As soon as you walk along the street, you quickly realize it's a feast for the senses. While delicate pink petals do capture the essence of spring, the cherry blossoms are also in full bloom earlier than expected, so it is important to come to the festival as soon as possible to catch them at their peak. Well, this year's festival indeed is a particularly memorable one as it makes its comeback after a 4-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And for those who want to know the best spots to enjoy this stunning view, use Exit 1 of National Assembly Station or Exit 2 of Yeouido Station.
Right now, Se-byuk, it seems like the cherry blossoms are blooming earlier than usual. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the official festival kicks off on Tuesday for 6 days from April 4th to the 9th. But as I mentioned earlier, this year's spring flowers quiet bloomed somewhat earlier than usual, like 2 weeks or so. So it is important to check out as soon as possible. In fact, according to the city government, some 735,000 people came to the festival over the weekend, forcing Seoul city government to implement traffic control measures starting April 1st last Saturday, which is 2 days earlier than originally planned. Well, another of the measures put in place is increasing the number of subway trains during the first and second weekends of April to ensure a smooth flow of traffic and avoid any inconvenience for visitors.
Right, it's always good to hear the measures are being taken to ensure the smooth running of events. Before we go, Se-byuk, do you have any last words for our viewers?
Yes, there is rain in the forecast starting tomorrow, so it is very important to come to this place to check out the beautiful blossoms before they fall. Make sure you don't want to miss this chance, because if you miss this time, you will have to wait for the whole year. Back to you, Kyungin.
Thank you, Se-byuk, for the reporting. Now, on the economic front, the total amount of loans taken out by self-employed people in South Korea hit record high in the fourth quarter of last year. Data from the Bank of Korea shows that businesses and household loans taken out by self-employed between October and December last year came to some 1,019 trillion won, or around $773 billion US. This comes after the value of loans taken out surpassed the 1,000 trillion won mark for the first time in the third quarter of last year, as self-employed people continue to struggle to recover fully from the COVID-19 pandemic. The value of business loans taken out was twice that of household loans during this period. Online shoppers in South Korea are continuing to spend more on increased travel under the eased COVID-19 restrictions. Data released by Statistics Korea Monday shows that the total value of online shopping in South Korea came to around $12.9 billion last month, That is February, rather, a 7.5% increase on year. The agency attributed this to growth in the travel and transportation sector, as well as a 29.7% rise in the purchase of e-coupons compared to last year, with more people giving vouchers as gifts. However, the total value of online shopping through mobile purchases fell compared to February last year to just under $9.6 billion, the lowest since April 2022. After tracking a record number of users during the pandemic, local delivery apps have lost many of those users, with more people enjoying outings and eating out. High inflation isn't making the situation any better, but our Shin Ha-young has their latest efforts to turn the situation around.
The growth of delivery app companies in South Korea stopped as people returned to normal life and dining out more frequently. On top of that, consumers have been abandoning delivery apps due to soaring delivery fees amid high inflation.
I used to order through a delivery app during the COVID-19 pandemic, but these days everything's gotten so expensive, including delivery fees, that I found myself cooking at home more often instead.
When ordering delivery food, I would spend less than $15 or under in the past. But now, as I have to spend more than that, I tend to take food out or only use the app when I'm with others.
In fact, according to Mobile Index, a big data analysis company, the three major delivery apps in South Korea posted an on-year decrease of nearly 20% in monthly active users in February. That's about 6.6 million fewer users compared to the previous year. The number dropped below the 30 million level for the first time in 2 years after reaching a peak of 36.8 million in December 2021. With more consumers burdened by delivery costs, some restaurants have been offering discounts to reduce delivery fees. You can easily see posters in front of restaurants that say customers can order food at cheaper prices if they visit and take their food out without ordering via a delivery app. This also comes as platform commission fees have become a burden for restaurant owners as delivery costs soar. In response, delivery app companies have come up with measures to cut delivery fees, such as through bundled deliveries where they deliver to multiple locations in one journey. It's a huge change compared to the past when companies competed in the market for single-item deliveries. Meanwhile, one expert forecasts the drop in users will continue for a while.
Young members of the MZ generation who want convenience are the ones who order delivery food the most. Under a new bundle delivery service, which takes longer to get the meal, more people will take food out, leading to a further decrease in the number of app users.
She added that delivery app firm sales had grown fivefold over 3 years. But it will be tough to increase or even maintain those sales as consumer lifestyles shifted offline. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
The Oscars success of hit movie Parasite has been chosen as the best ever Korean movie-related news in a poll conducted by the Korean Film Council. The council said Monday that more than 7,000 people took part in the online survey, which asked participants to choose their favorite news item about South Korean movies. About 1,000 people voted for the news of Parasite becoming the first South Korean film to win 4 awards at the Oscars in 2020. Bong Joon-ho's revolutionary movie won in the Best Picture, Best Director, International Film, and Original Screenplay categories that year.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In Russia, a bombing at a cafe has killed a prominent military blogger and wounded over 24 people. The blast took place in Russia's second largest city of St. Petersburg on Sunday local time. According to officials, military blogger Vladimir Tatarsky was killed while leading a discussion at the cafe, which is organized by pro-war group Cyberfront Z. It's believed that an explosive device was hidden in a small statue that was gifted to him by a woman attending the event. Russian authorities have said that they are treating the case as a suspected murder, and the group has called it a terrorist attack. Tatarsky gained popularity after Russia invaded Ukraine, providing commentary and analysis on the war to his more than 500,000 Telegram followers. Meanwhile, in the United States, at least 32 people have been killed after a series of tornadoes tore through cities and towns in the country's south and Midwest over the weekend. The fatalities occurred in the states of Arkansas, Tennessee, Illinois, Indiana, Alabama, and Mississippi. The death toll comes after a storm system battered the affected regions on Friday local time, with Missouri and Wisconsin also affected. According to the U.S. National Weather Service, at least 80 tornadoes have been recorded since Friday. Governors of Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, and Arkansas have announced emergency or disaster declarations in order to gain immediate access to assistance. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden on Sunday issued a major disaster declaration for Arkansas, freeing up federal resources for the state. In other news, Oscar-winning Japanese composer Ryuichi Sakamoto has died at the age of 71. According to Sakamoto's agency, he died on Tuesday following a battle with cancer. Sakamoto won an Oscar, a Golden Globe, and a Grammy for his 1987 movie composition work on The Last Emperor, in which he also had an acting role. He also starred alongside the late David Bowie in the 1983 film Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, for which he wrote the music theme. Sakamoto was born in Tokyo in 1952, and in 1978 he co-founded Yellow Magic Orchestra, an influential electronic act. Despite his passing, it is not the last we have heard from Sakamoto, as an album by the composer, titled Travasia, is said to be released on May 5th. And finally, an artist unveiled a baby replica of the iconic Eiffel Tower over the weekend in the French capital of Paris. It's called the Eiffella and was revealed to the public on Saturday local time after being set up overnight. Located in Paris's Champs-de-Mars Park, opposite the real Eiffel Tower, the 32-meter structure can appear to match its 330-meter tall counterpart in size when viewed from a certain angle. In keeping with the baby concept, the replica emits the sound of a crying baby every 10 minutes, which is then followed by a lullaby. Weighing over 20 tons, the iron replica took a year to make and is made up of 3,900 large pieces and 9,000 smaller pieces. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Much of Korea is on very high alert against wildfires. Over the weekend, 30 wildfires were reported in the western parts of the country, which are very rare to happen around this time of year. Usually, East Coast areas have more reports of wildfire. And today is warmer and drier in the west, so please be extra careful with anything that could cause a blaze. Let's not sacrifice your or your family's safety and livelihood by being careless with fire. Meanwhile, conditions are as pleasant as yesterday and warmer in Seoul this afternoon. That much hoped for rain tomorrow will bring relief from that ongoing heat. Now, eastern parts of Korea are having highs in the upper teens to low 20s this afternoon under sunny skies with decent air quality nationwide. So it is another fine day to spend some time outdoors. In fact, today could be the last day to enjoy the beautiful spring blossoms. 3 days of rain looks like bringing much relief from the dry air into the country, but also temperatures will drop dramatically. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day.